Hey there, thanks for clicking play. My name's Jim, and I admit it, I'm in love with guitars. I love everything about them. I love the way they sound, I love the way they look, I love the way they feel when I'm holding one, I love the way it makes me feel when I'm playing one. I love their place in our history and the important part they played in our culture. I love their versatility and how one simple tool in a talented artist's hands can be a variety of different sounds and textures, I think maybe more than any other instrument. I love their heritage and their tradition, but I also love the technology of new guitars and the endless variety of sounds you can get from them, and how guitars are always changing and always improving and always doing new things with them. And most importantly, I love talking about them. So if you're interested in guitars and you want to learn more about guitars, you've come to the right place. So please consider clicking the subscribe button. That would be great. Now this video in particular is Guitar 101, and it is specifically for people who are about to buy their first guitar or interested in getting their first guitar and don't know anything about it. This is not a guitar lesson in how to play guitars. It is a lesson in how to choose the right guitar for you. So I'm really excited about it, and I hope you will stick around and watch. And if you stick around to the very end, I'm going to make a recommendation for some guitar music that you probably have never heard before, and I think you're really going to like. So thanks for watching, and let's get started. All right, so this is Guitar 101, how to buy your first guitar, and this is what we're going to cover in this video. The first thing we're going to talk about is the two main categories of guitars. And of course, what are the differences between those two types or categories, and should that affect your buying decision? And then importantly, of course, setting a realistic budget for your guitar. There is no reason to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your first guitar. You can get a really good guitar at a really good price. And a lot of that decision is based on the style of music you want to play, and so that'll kind of inform the style of guitar you're going to choose. We'll also talk about the accessories and the costs of those accessories. You know, there's a lot of things available for guitar, and you don't need to buy everything. You can start off with a really simple package. And finally, we're going to talk about, does it matter where they're made? Guitars are made all over the world, and you're going to get different price points and different values based on where it's made. It matters more that you're buying from a trusted vendor than where it's manufactured. So we're going to talk about that as well. All right, so let's get started with the two main categories of guitars. And I think most people understand that the two main categories are acoustic guitars and electric guitars, but there are really important differences between those two types of guitars and advantages and disadvantages to each one of them. Now, in those two main categories, there are many subcategories of guitars. And of course, with all those subcategories and all those different styles, it seems like there's an infinite number of styles of different types of guitars. It can get really confusing and really overwhelming, and you don't know what to pick. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Let's just talk about the two main categories of guitars, and I'm going to demonstrate on real guitars. This part of the video, we're talking about the differences between the two categories, main categories of guitars, which is acoustic guitars and electric guitars. So I'm going to show you an electric guitar. If you don't know anything about guitars, you're going to learn something about the electric guitar and what are the pros and cons of starting with an electric guitar as opposed to an acoustic guitar. This is an electric guitar, and what I'm showing you here, this is my Fender Stratocaster. This is a 1993, so it's not a new guitar, 1993 Fender Stratocaster. This particular guitar design was introduced in 1954. The first electric guitars were introduced, I think, in the 1930s. The first one was made by Rickenbacker. I think it was a lap steel guitar. This was first introduced in 1954. Now, this body, this type of guitar, the reason why they call it a solid body electric is because it is a solid piece of wood. This in particular is an alder body. They also make guitars out of ash and maple and mahogany and sometimes even rosewood. Those are very heavy. And the neck is made of maple, and the neck is bolted on to the back with 4 screws. And a lot of times you'll see guitars that have what's called a set neck, which is either it's glued on or it even kind of goes all the way through the body. For the purposes of buying your first guitar, it does not matter. This is a very kind of a high-end guitar, and it has a bolted on neck. And it's fantastic. There's no problems with having one or the other. Either way is great. It's just sort of a matter of personal preference and what the manufacturer is doing. And the important part of the electric guitar, of course, is the electronics. And what you're seeing here in the electronics, I'm trying to hold this up to the camera, is these are what's called the pickups, these little sort of like ovals here. These are how the sound travels from the strings through the electronics into the amplifier. So these have magnets in them, and they're wound with copper wire. And the electrical impulses from the vibration of the strings travels through the copper wire and out of the output jack, this thing here, and into the amplifier. The guitar, without being plugged in, the guitar is pretty quiet. You can sit and strum it by yourself, but it's not amplified, so it's not super loud. One of the reasons why they came up with the solid body design is because when they were first starting to amplify guitars, with a hollow body guitar, with a guitar that has that is acoustic on the inside, it has a hole in it, you would get that howl, the feedback that is kind of familiar. And so the solid body sort of fixed that problem. The configuration here with these knobs are, I've got a volume and 2 tone controls, and the volume kind of controls all the pickups, and the tone controls individual pickups. So with no volume going through the amplifier right now, you can hear it, but it's pretty quiet. Now if I turn the guitar up, and you hear that sound. This happens to be going through a Fender amplifier as well. I have a couple other amplifiers, but I really like this one. Okay, so the pros and cons of having a solid body guitar, right? So the biggest pros, besides it being super cool, is of course they're pretty easy to play relative to starting off with an acoustic guitar, because you're using lighter strings. The strings tend to be a little bit closer to the fretboard. That's called the action. The action is what the distance between the strings and the frets. Electric guitars tend to have lower action, which allows electric guitar players to play, faster and use lighter strings and those kind of things. They're very comfortable to play. They're very comfortable to sit and play. They're comfortable. Some guitars have those kind of like crazy shapes, and those really aren't practical for sitting. So I recommend whatever guitar you're getting, make sure you get one that is comfortable to sit and play, because you don't necessarily want to stand and play all the time with a strap. And it's just better for your learning and your posture to learn how to sit and play guitar before you stand. So things like flying V's and all these kind of crazy guitar shapes that are not very practical for sitting. This is perfectly suited for sitting. The light strings make it easier to play. This kind of guitar is basically suited for any type of popular music: pop, blues, rock, country, metal, jazz fusion, any kind of electrified music, I guess you'd say. I mean, a Fender Stratocaster in particular has been used by a lot of famous players, but these are great for blues, they're great for country, they're great for rock. The advantages, those are the advantages to it. Let's talk about a few of the disadvantages so you have a comparison. One of the obvious disadvantages is if you want to be heard by anyone but yourself, you need an amplifier. And that's an additional cost, and it's also something that's going to occupy space in your house. Unless you get a headphone amplifier, which you can get. They have little things that are like headphone amps, but they're a little unsatisfying, honestly. I have 1 or 2, and it's not like having a real amplifier. So these kind of guitars aren't really suitable if you plan to play classical music, any kind of like Spanish guitar, flamenco music, mariachi music, if that's what the type of music you're considering playing. If you want to be a folk singer like, Joni Mitchell as an example, this probably isn't the right instrument for you. You want to get an acoustic. Taylor Swift, they tend to use acoustic guitars. They tend to write on acoustic guitars. Famously, if we're talking about folk music, this guitar in particular, this brand and model of guitar, this is the guitar that caused all the uproar with Bob Dylan in 1965 at the Newport Jazz Festival when Dylan went electric. this is what he was playing. He was playing a Fender Stratocaster, and it was a huge uproar in the folk music community because they thought that Dylan had sold out and all this other stuff. Those are sort of the cons of the guitar. Is maybe if you want to be a folk musician, singer, songwriter, that kind of a thing, probably electric isn't the place to start. The other sort of thing you might want to consider, and it's a consideration, is if you're buying this for yourself or you're buying it for, like I said, a child, one of your children or one of your grandchildren or whatever, is think about the volume of it and where they live. Maybe if they live in an apartment or someplace where it's not okay to play a loud guitar. My mom was not thrilled when I wanted to get an electric guitar, and I just was blasting it all day long in the basement. So anyway, those are I would say the pros and cons of an electric guitar if that's the instrument you're going to start with. Now let's talk about acoustics. Okay, now that I spent a little time describing the features of an electric guitar, let's talk about an acoustic guitar, okay, and what the differences are. Okay, so this is a Yamaha flat top steel string acoustic guitar. The model number on this one is FG460SA. I've had this guitar for over 30 years. It's one of a few acoustics that I have. It sounds great. Plays really well. It's a really nice guitar. I'm really happy with it. So what are the features of this guitar as opposed to some of the other guitars? So this, as I said, is a steel string guitar. It means the strings are made of steel. There are other types of acoustic guitars that have nylon strings. Those are, generally more suited for classical music, Spanish style guitar playing, flamenco, mariachi music. There are some pop stars that play nylon string guitars, but generally speaking, if we're talking about a standard style steel string acoustic, flat top, meaning if you look, it has a flat top, right? It's not arched, because there are arched top acoustic guitars as well. But again, I'm describing kind of the baseline standard here. So steel string acoustic guitar, this one, the top is made of spruce and the sides and back are made of mahogany. It has the definable sound hole, which is where the sound kind of travels out of, and that's how we get the kind of like loud acoustic guitar sound. That's why the type of wood is so important. This guitar does not have any amplification into it, but there are, especially now, a lot of guitars, acoustic guitars come with what's a pickup, which is basically a small microphone hidden on the inside of the guitar. And basically means that you can run it through an amplifier. Some guitars come with them, some guitars don't. For my purposes, I don't use it, but that's the difference. You can get them either way. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the body style of the acoustic guitar. This particular size guitar, acoustic guitars come in several sizes, although the general shape is the same. Some acoustics have what's called a cutaway, which is a little bit of a cutout here. Which makes it easier for you to get up here if you're playing this kind of stuff. If you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry about that. The most important thing for finding an acoustic guitar that you're picking out is finding one that is in your price range, that you like the way it sounds, you like the way it looks. You don't have to get overly fancy with it. It can be pretty simple. Like I said, this size is called a Dreadnought size. There's the single O concert, the double O concert, the triple O concert. They're kind of like getting a little bit larger each time, and then you've got the Dreadnought, and then you've got the Jumbo. Basically, what you're looking at is the larger the guitar, the louder it's going to be. Taylor Swift, she'll play like a jumbo guitar on stage. It's a very big-bodied guitar, but she's performing. She's probably not playing that at home. She might be using something smaller. But if you're getting a guitar for, if it's not for you, if you're getting it for child or a grandchild and they're small, they got small hands, this size body may be too large, so you can get a smaller size body if you go to your local retailer or whatever, and just kind of, you want to make sure you're something that's comfortable for them to play. What are these guitars appropriate for playing? Well, I mean, I think most people know, but these are sort of the standard guitar for singer-songwriters, country music, folk music, bluegrass. The pros and cons of an acoustic guitar. So the pros obviously is that, for one thing, it's very light. They're super light, which is nice. They travel really well. You can take them anywhere you want and just always be able to play some music. I love the way they sound, of course. You don't need an amplifier with them. You don't need to haul any accessories with you if you're just going to play somewhere, going to a friend's house, you're going whatever, you're going on vacation, you want to take a guitar with you. Acoustic's the way to go. They're great. You know, I have a guitar that I specifically tape for camping. So I allow it to get a little bit beat up. One of the things about having a guitar like this is because you can't hide behind the electric guitar, it forces you to learn good technique. That's very important, right? So you really get to sound all the strings and hear everything. It forces you to have good technique. You can kind of get away with sloppy technique as an electric guitar player if you have a lot of effects on it, and you can kind of hide some mistakes. But learning on an acoustic is a good way to go, because it really does force you to have good technique with your playing. Some of the disadvantages, I would say, if there are any, to owning an acoustic guitar, and I'm hard pressed to find a disadvantage to owning an acoustic, it is a little harder to get started. It is a little harder to press down on the strings. You might get this kind of thing. You know, it's a little harder to get a clean tone, and it takes a little bit more work, and you will develop calluses, just like anyone who works with their hands a lot, which is little, extra skin and scar tissue that will make it a little bit easier to press down after time. I've been playing guitar for 45 years or so, so I've got calluses on my fingers. That is my overview from let's look at the actual guitar for the difference between electric and acoustics. Now let's talk a little bit more about the other things to consider when you're looking at your first guitars. Okay, so I also wanted to touch on where guitars are made and what you need to consider when you're buying a guitar, where it's made. As an investment, you are probably not going to get an investment guitar unless you buy a guitar that's made in America, and you're probably not going to find a guitar that's made in America for under $1,500, which is not what you should spend on your first guitar. There are some very well-known guitar companies, and they also own a bunch of other guitar companies. So I'm going to talk about those really quickly, and then I'm going to talk about where these guitars are made and what you should consider. So the big names in guitar companies are Fender, Gibson, Paul Reed Smith, Yamaha. I'm sure there's some other ones, but those are the ones that I'm thinking of the top of my head. But there are a bunch of brands that these big manufacturers also own. So you may recognize some of these other names. So Fender owns Fender, they own Squier, they own Gretch, they own Jackson, they own Charvel, and they own EVH, which is the Edward Van Halen line of guitars. Gibson owns Gibson, and they also own Epiphone, and they also own Kramer. Paul Reed Smith has their own import line called the SE line, but they're all under the Paul Reed Smith brand. And then Yamaha has their Japanese-made guitars, and they also own Guild. And those guitars some guilds are made in America and some guilds are made overseas. For a high-end guitar, if you're going to be spending a lot of money on the guitar, there are guitars that are made in the US, in Canada, in Germany, in Italy, in Japan, in Israel, places like that. If you're really thinking about it as an investment, honestly, probably the best investment guitar is going to be made in the US, but you never really know what their value is going to be. And you have to really hold on to them for a long time. For your first guitar, I wouldn't be too concerned about buying one that's made in America unless you have a hard and fast rule about that, and then go for it. Fender, Gibson, PRS, Yamaha, they all have subdivisions, and some of those guitars are made in Mexico or South Korea or Indonesia or Vietnam or China. They're all fine. Their manufacturing standards are pretty good. You can get a pretty good guitar made in Vietnam or China or any of these other places that you're going to get a pretty good guitar at a pretty good price. If you are going to buy a guitar online, I would suggest buying it from an authorized reseller of musical instruments, like Guitar Center or Sweetwater Music or Musician's Friend or one of these other ones. I'll pull them up. I don't have an affiliation with any of those right now, but I'm just going to suggest that you do that. And you can even buy like a Fender guitar on Amazon and maybe an Epiphone, but I would just caution you from buying anything on eBay or Craigslist or any of those things, because they're not authorized retailers, and a lot of times they're not selling the genuine article. if you go on eBay and someone is selling a Gibson Les Paul Custom, which is normally a $4,000 guitar, and they're selling it for $300, that is a counterfeit. I wouldn't buy something that is what is essentially stolen intellectual property. So at least until you know what you're looking for and you want to know you're getting a good guitar that is made under good conditions, you should buy from one of these brands and from an authorized reseller. All right, so let's talk a little bit about guitar budgets. I was trying to think of another product that is available in the world that has such a wide range of prices other than a guitar. There's probably something, but I just couldn't think of one, because you can buy a used guitar for probably less than $100, and you can also buy a used guitar for $500,000. I don't suggest that you do that for your first guitar. We're gonna go over the shoulder and I'm gonna show you some guitar packages from some online retailers, but I honestly suggest that it's good to go to your local store, whether it's Guitar Center or even better if you have a mom and pop local shop that you can go shop at. I think that's a better way to go. It's just good for your community and it's good to support a local business. So do that if you can, but I will show you some guitars and some packages online that I think are good deals that are probably worth pursuing. Okay, to wrap up, I'm going to show you a few guitars that I think are pretty good deals and a couple different price ranges and some things to look out for as you're looking for a guitar if you're going to try to buy it online. The websites I'm going to use here are Sweetwater, Music, Musician's Friend, Guitar Center, and Amazon. Musician's Friend and Guitar Center are owned by the same company, so the prices are going to be basically the same. I'm not really sure how it splits up into one or the other, but they're owned by the same company. All right, so let's talk about acoustic guitars. Now I went to Sweetwater and I typed in kids guitars, and the first thing that comes up, and they're not super cheap, are these things for $229, $149. But if you look closely at these, I'm just going to click on one randomly here, this one here. These aren't really guitars. They have 3 strings. These are basically toys, essentially. I mean, if you have a little kid, like a 5-year-old kid, that is interested, this might be something to go with. But if you just search for beginner's guitars, you can buy this on Sweetwater. This is the FA115. You can buy it on the Fender website. It's the same price. You can buy it on Amazon. This is a great deal, okay? This is a steel string acoustic guitar. Comes with a case, with picks, with an extra set of strings, a strap, and a cloth. They call this case candy, by the way. Let's look at the specs on this guitar. $199. Okay, and for $199, this is going to be made in China. It is going to be a laminate body, top and sides. That's fine. That's what you would expect. Laminate spruce top, laminate mahogany back. So it's not solid wood. You want to take some of the marketing language with a grain of salt. Easy playing neck promotes proper playing habits. That doesn't really mean anything. But it includes a gig bag and it includes 3 months of the Fender Play subscription, which is a kind of a free lesson set that you can get in the beginning and then you pay for it afterwards. One thing that most of these guitars don't come with is a tuner, but there are plenty of guitar tuner apps, including the Fender app and the Gibson app, which are free, that have built-in tuners that you can use on your smartphone. So those are great. I will put links in the description where you could pick up this guitar if you're interested in this one. For $199, this is an excellent starter acoustic. And like I said, you can buy it on Sweetwater, you could buy it on the Fender website, and as I said, I'll include links in the description. Another good choice is this Fender CC60S concert acoustic. So this guitar is a slightly smaller body size than the previous one, which is a Dreadnought size. I talked about this. This is a concert size. It's a little bit smaller. It's still a full-size guitar. This one's made in Indonesia. It has a solid spruce top, mahogany back and sides. Now this one doesn't come with a case or a strap or any of those other things, but for $199, you're getting a guitar that is not a laminate. It is made in Indonesia. It's going to have a slightly better sound quality and it'll probably last a little bit longer. This is another excellent choice for a beginner steel string acoustic guitar. If you are shopping for someone who is younger and maybe these guitars are a little too big, I have one other recommendation for you, and this would be the Gretch Jim Dandy Parlor guitar. Now, this is a smaller body style, it's a shorter scale neck, it's still a proper acoustic guitar. Parlor guitars, I talked a little bit about Parlor guitars in the acoustic guitar section. I have a Parlor guitar, I really like it, but as you can see, this is a slightly smaller body size. It may be a little bit more comfortable for a younger player, but I've played these, and although I think they play pretty well, they don't have a very rich sound because of the materials that they're made of. They're laminate, and I think the necks are a little bit fatter than the Fender necks, which I think are a little bit easier to play. So those are my recommendations for good starter acoustic guitars under $200. All right, so now let's move on to some of the electrics. Fender Squier has this series that are a good series for young players who are just starting. These guitars are slightly smaller in size than a standard. This is a style of a Fender Stratocaster, but it's a little bit smaller than a regular Fender Stratocaster. It's $189. It's available in a couple different colors. This is sort of a shell pink and black, but you can see the size is a little smaller. This would be an appropriate choice for a younger player who's really interested in playing electric guitar, but this is not a full-size guitar, so I wouldn't recommend it for an adult or someone who's a preteen, something like that. I think it's just a little too small. Epiphone, owned by Gibson, and this is called the Epiphone Power Players SG electric guitar in lava red. You might recognize this shape. This is Angus Young from AC/DC and Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. It's a famous guitar shape. Some trivia is that SG just stands for solid guitar. That's what it stands for. This comes with a soft shell case or a gig bag, the guitar itself, a strap, a cable, and some picks for $199, which is a pretty good deal. And if you don't necessarily need an amplifier right away, this is a good way to go as well. So you've got, for $189, you've got the Fender Squier Affinity Mini Stratocaster, or you've got the Power Players SG, and they also have a Les Paul version of that. Now, it's a little confusing because they also have what they call the Player Pack, which is a full-size guitar. That's a little confusing. This is an Epiphone Les Paul Player Pack. They have this available in a couple colors. This is $289, but you're also getting an amplifier. So you're getting a full-size guitar with a soft shell case, gig bag, an amplifier. This is a small transistor amplifier. It's not terribly loud. A strap, a plug. This one comes with a little tuner, which is nice, and a power supply. These usually just come in one big box. Now, another alternative to this one, which I think is probably a little bit nicer guitar and probably a little bit nicer amp, is the Yamaha Gig Maker electric guitar. This particular guitar style is called a Pacifica. This is sort of Yamaha's version of the Stratocaster. These are very nice starter guitars. I like the Pacificas a lot. I think they're really well made. And so if you have a budget to spend about $320, this is going to be my suggestion here for this guitar. All of these suggestions are under $500. If you want to keep it under $300, this Epiphone Player Pack is a really good deal, and you get an amp that comes along with it. Another really good deal for that is going to be the Squier Sonic Stratocaster limited edition. Now, this is a full-size Stratocaster guitar. It comes with an amplifier, it comes with a gig bag, it comes with picks and a strap and a cable. I don't think this amplifier is as big as it is in this photo. I think it's smaller than this. I think that they've done something in Photoshop here to make it look bigger. The amplifier is not that big. This is a good choice. $269 is a good price. It's a little misleading because the amp is not as big as that guitar. If you look at the photo, the knobs on the guitar and the knobs on the amp should be the same size, and they're not. This is a little 5-watt amplifier. It's probably 2/3 that size. Okay, those are my recommendations for starter acoustic or starter electric guitars. One thing I will add to this whole set, which is not included in any of these things, is a guitar stand. I like to have my guitars on stands when they're sort of in rotation, because I have a few guitars and I kind of have them on rotations. I don't hang them on the wall right now. There are, as you can see, a lot of choices in guitar stands, all kinds of different choices. You can get super fancy with them. The ones that I like are pretty simple. I like the Hercules stand like this because it has the foam pads on the legs and you can just sort of lean the guitar against it, and it has a little bit of these latches to kind of keep the guitar in place. I like those, but that's a little bit more money. Gator framework stands are pretty good for $30, and Fender actually makes some really nice stands that I believe you can get on the Fender website. All right, let's move on. Thank you very much for staying all the way to the end. As promised, I wanted to make a recommendation of some guitar music from a guitar legend who I know you've heard of, but from an album I'll bet you've never heard. The guitarist that I'm talking about is Glen Campbell, and the album is the 1965 release called The Big Bad Rock Guitar of Glen Campbell. It's all instrumental. It's sort of a mixture of popular songs of the day that were reinterpreted for instrumental and guitar. Has a very surf guitar kind of feel to it. It's kind of a little bit of an Austin Powers feel to it. It's great. It's got songs like Ticket to Ride and Walk Don't Run and the James Bond theme, King of the Road, and some of his own compositions. He was part of the Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew was this unofficial group of 20 to 30 musicians who were session people who played on basically every pop song that was recorded in the 1960s. They were working players who basically spent 8 hours a day every day going from one studio to the next, recording music and basically making hits. This album, The Big Bad Rock Guitar of Glen Campbell, was probably an offshoot of that, where he was playing on all of these sessions. So it's a great album. You got to check it out. If you're going to hang out with some friends, have some cocktails or whatever, put it on. You're really going to like it. Thanks for watching again. Please, if you like this kind of content, and I'm going to do a lot more interesting guitar content about guitar history, sort of legends of the instrument. We're going to talk a lot about them. If you like that kind of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'll really help me grow the channel, and I can continue to do more videos like this. Thank you again, and I hope to see you soon.